let's start then by, after we understand the main project characteristics and what's the importance of resources and connect them to the objectives of any project that you are on. I will go through the project development cycle of any construction project, and I'm gonna put more generalized framework for that. And we start by the following. One, you have to have a need. And after you have, as a client or an owner of a project, I have a need to build a bridge, I have a need to build this building, or even a power plant to meet a specific type of demand that I have in mind. So after I have this kind of need, there is kind of a process in the beginning of the cycle of your project development. Focus more into the design phase of the project. So the need start, and then the conceptual design start to be developed, where after we develop the conceptual design and speak with the architect and the engineer, with the client or the owner, then we will have an approved to move forward after the conceptual design to what we call a preliminary design and the final design of the project. So let me go more explanation on this kind of phase as a construction manager, why you need to understand it and why it is important. So one, at the need and the conceptual design phase, there is the economic basis for the project must be established based on market studies, where we be projecting the demand in using the project. So sometimes we also actually consider in this kind of a study topics such as site location, availability of labors, and even availability of supporting resources like energy, power, water, and even shipping connections that you want to deliver the materials to site. This type of study usually we refer to as a feasibility study. Now, in deciding whether or not to proceed from the conceptual design, so as you can go with the approval, we usually develop three things at the conceptual portion or at this phase. One, cost-benefit analysis, which is simply the comparison between the estimated cost of the project and the revenue stream that are that are expected for the project. Two, a graphical representation of the project, and that could be as simple as a sketch, or actually a three-dimensional model of that project, which sometimes is part of a building information model, or what we refer to as BIM. And this is also very important as a CM to understand more details when you are putting a good plan for your project, when you're initiating the project, to understand the BIM process. That's why we have a separate module focusing on technology and BIM in this course for later. Third, a cost estimate based on the conceptual information available. Of course, the amount of the conceptual design documentation available varies based on the complexity and the size of the project itself. So, which makes sense. The bigger the project, the more required expanded documentation needed to define the scope of work in that phase. So once it's approved, it will go to the last final two. The end product of the design phase in general for the project development is a set of plans and specifications that define the project to be constructed. This is usually achieved by two steps, which are the last two steps here: preliminary design and the final or detailed design. The preliminary design is actually, or this is usually offers the owner a pause in which to review the construction before detail and final design commence. And usually this happens when the design is at 40% completion of the total design. At the preliminary design, for examples, I'm gonna give you what could be more details than the conceptual design. What we do, we make decisions based on something regarding the size and the location, for example, of the air conditioning, heating unit, electrical systems, or maybe also the primary water distribution components in the project. Once the preliminary design is approved, the final or detailed design is accomplished, which is the second phase of developing what I called set of plans and specifications that define the project to be constructed. In this phase, more detailed design are added. For example, interior finishes like walls, floors, ceiling, as well as some details that are required to install any special items in that specific project. Last but not least, also, all the final and precise locations of the electrical, mechanical, or heating units, and even the structural systems are also finalized in this phase. So once we finalize the design phase, we start by another phase, which we call it the bid phase, or the bidding for the project, and starts by having all the bid package complete, and then we release this package for bid for contractors to bid on, and we send an advertise notice for the bidders, and sometimes we invite them to bid for that specific project. And we keep a period of time for all the contractors, the general contractors, the builders, to bid for our projects, so as at the end we select who are the main contractor on our project that need to build this project. So it's pure competition between all the contractors. And I will explain just a little details on this phase. So basically, if you remember from the previous phase, which is the design, there is a set of plans and specifications are available. That set are then given to the constructor or potential constructors to be used for bidding purposes, as we explained in this process. And let me highlight what we mean by the bid package. Usually, what include in the package are items such as the plans, drawings, technical specifications, proposal form, general conditions, and special conditions. Let me highlight what we mean by general and special conditions. General conditions usually cover all common procedures to construction contracts, and special conditions produce a more detailed information for any unique items for a given project. And usually, all these supporting documents are included by reference in the proposal form that we mentioned that is also available at the bid package. So these are the general items we have at the bid package. So once we select the main contractor to build the project, then the last phase of the project development cycle happens, which is building the projects, or started by first we give a notice to proceed for the winner on this bid. The construction period starts from 1 year to a couple of years, and then before the end, inspection to the property, and then acceptance of a project from the client or the owner or the consultant of the owner. So this is what we call then the build phase, which is this kind of a summary of what the project development cycle of the of any kind of a project, from what we call traditional project delivery: design, bid, build. This is just one example in much more details I want to give here, but for later we have a totally separate module in this course highlighting all kind of project delivery methods available for us in our industry to deliver the projects to the client.